Much here to, so yeah, just summarize what's the critical.
Hello. This is Ty. Yep. We're just messing with you now.
Chris, would let me know when Mel comes on the line?
This is him?
Oh, that's Mel?
Yeah.
Mel. You want me to act as the lead on the meeting today, or can you want to handle it where you are? Yeah, no, I'm happy to, well, not real happy, but I'm willing to do it. I just wanted to make sure that I wasn't preempting. Oh, okay, it's according to AT&T, it's 3 o'clock. Okay, we'll call the meeting to order at 3 o'clock. And second item on the agenda is the committee/public comments. Are there any committee or public comments? That would include staff? Yeah? No? Okay. And it looks like we've got nobody online. Okay, item 3 is discussion of Executive Order N722. Is Don, that yours?
Sure. So yesterday, we received from the State Board a fact sheet, which you have in front of you. Mal, you may not have it in front of you, but I emailed it yesterday internally to the staff, also to the board and to Jim Worth. There's a lot of information in there, but essentially, regulations that have been issued by the State Board are set to take effect sometime around June 16th. There are 3 primary things that we needed to consider. The first was that the regulations required that we submit a preliminary supply and demand assessment report to the state. We would normally do one at the end of the year. They want one done by June 1st. That's been completed and submitted. The second thing is the requirement for that pertains to commercial and institutional customers to not irrigate non-functional turf. Non-functional turf is exactly what it implies. It would exclude, and this again applies only to commercial institutional customers. It doesn't apply to residential, but it would exclude things like parks, ball fields. So for example, Freedom Park at City Hall, where they have community events, that would be exempt. So we're required to notify our customers. And the best way that we have to do that, because we don't have all emails for all of our commercial and institutional customers, is that we're going to submit, actually send a letter to them. I've drafted the letter. Ty reviewed it. I sent it to Jim Worth. He hasn't responded yet, but he's going to review it. It'll be in the board packet for Monday night. So we'll be looking for just board approval to go ahead and send that letter out to our customers. The body of it essentially, because the regulations allow for water agencies to basically penalize customers that don't follow the regulation. We've taken from Ordinance 103 the notices and penalties. There's a four-step progression of notices and penalties, and that's included in the body of the letter. So the intent would be to let our customers know that once they receive the letter, they're immediately required to cease irrigating non-functional turf. Explains the progressive penalties. And finally, because I'm sure there'll be some confusion, there are exemptions for if you have a tree and you've got turf around the tree, and to water that tree, you have to water the turf. There's an exemption for that. There's an exemption for irrigating turf with non-potable water, which we probably don't have to worry about because we don't do that. And lastly, apparently there are different types of turf that require lower levels of irrigation. There's specific requirements mentioned in here. I don't remember what they're offhand, but if you have a certain type of turf that requires less irrigation, you can apply for an exemption. I think there's a calculation you have to do with regards to evapotranspiration or something. It's in here. And the last thing is that water agencies are required to implement level 2 of their water shortage contingency plan. There are 6 levels to water shortage contingency plans. We do have a plan which we submitted last year, the 2021 water shortage contingency plan. Essentially at level 2, it entails communicating to our customers, water saving tips, making them aware of the drought conditions, that sort of thing. But one thing it does mention is it requires the board to pass an ordinance. I talked with Jim yesterday, and many of the things that the state is requiring agencies to do are already included in our Ordinance 103. So my proposal to Jim was that we already have an ordinance that is a mandatory conservation ordinance. And after we discussed it, he agreed. So what will happen on Monday, the board will just be presented with a resolution to basically reinforce Ordinance 103. So I think that will cover our level 2 water shortage contingency plan requirements. So that's what we're looking at. And other than that, I mean, those are the main 3 things. The biggest one by far will probably be the commercial and institutional turf. And I'm anticipating there's going to be some confusion about that, and we'll probably be getting some calls from some of our customers asking, do they qualify for an exemption, or is it non-functional turf? And so again, that's one reason I think why we want to go with the progressive penalties, notices and penalties. Basically, the first one just to notify them that you're in violation. Second is another notice. We give them information about the ordinance. And third is a $50 fine. Fourth is a $200 fine. And then if they don't address it, then ultimately leading to shut off of the customer service. And they have to pay all fees associated with reconnecting. So that's a gist of it. Of course, there's much more information in here, but those are the main points as far as what we're looking at doing in terms of our water district.
It seems to me that it was going to last a fairly long time, right?
It's for a year. Yeah.
Year.
Mm-hmm.
That's a fairly long time to have people. Are there any board comments, Mel? Public?
Yes, unless there's a tree that would require watering, or the other exemptions for perennial plantings, like if there's shrubs that need to be maintained, that would be another exemption. But if it's just a piece of turf, like between the sidewalk and the curb, it serves no purpose, then yeah, that would qualify as non-functional turf.
So,
Probably, but again, I would, in the letter, we're encouraging customers that have questions to contact us and we'll make a determination. I know it's going to cause confusion, and as I state in the letter, we understand the implication of it because it certainly, if it is in fact non-functional turf and you're not allowed to irrigate it, it's obviously going to die, turn brown. It's going to affect your property values depending on how much is involved, but this is another one of those mandates from the state we're required to comply with. So
yeah, and we get to be the bad guy by enforcing the law.
right, as I mentioned in the community, I went to the community collaborative meeting yesterday, and as I mentioned, please don't kill the messenger.
Shoot. Okay, sounds like you got it under control. I appreciate the efforts of you and the staff to be on top of this. We'll just deal with the challenges as it rolls out.
yeah, and be sure and catch all the spears before they get to us.
Yeah.
That's really important. Have we put out any kind of a press release to bring it to people's attention?
No, but what I have done, I should have mentioned, because the level 2 requires outreach, I've drafted a column for the newspaper,
Oh, good.
and I've sent it to Providence for them to review. So the plan would be to put it out next week, which would be good timing for all this to come out. So
Right. What about our website? Is there going to be anything on our website? Just a question, Don.
Yeah.
Normally your articles go on there, but we might want something specific. Well, we should update our conservation.
Yeah, I don't know that I would put this on because this is intended for agencies and it goes well beyond what customers would want to know. So
Oh, yeah, it might be confusing, actually.
exactly, it's too much information.
Yeah.
But
Okay.
I mean, when the column's published, that will be on the website. In fact, I usually put it on there once it clears through Providence. I'll go ahead and put it on the website. So probably Monday it could be on the website.
Okay, great.
And I do.
And you said the letter.
I'm sorry. Go ahead, Mallory.
I'm sorry. You said the letter was just going to go out to customers that we believe might be impacted by this?
No, it needs to go to all commercial and institutional customers.
Okay.
Make them aware.
Okay.
And in the column, I do specifically, I mentioned the drought conditions in the Southwest. I mentioned the fact that lush green turf is not native to the desert. And I provide links in there for our website for maintaining trees, and then also for those that want to consider turf replacement, a link to our extensive guide about
good.
native plants. It's a searchable database. So you can put filters in. If you want a yellow flowering plant, you can put that in there and it'll suggest different plants. So just trying to make people aware that they do I think the day's coming when turf's not going to be a part of the California landscape.
Yeah. Oh,
Southern California in
Right.
particular.
yeah, well, all Southern and Central California.
Yes,
anyway.
exactly.
Right.
Hey, Don, is Providence going to put stuff on social media about this? Seems to be the best way to get the word out.
Yeah, I mean, I've been sending them articles, which I think they've got like 4 of them they're holding on to. I'm not sure. They usually try and schedule things periodically. So I've sent them articles related to this. So things should be appearing on Facebook.
How many commercial, industrial?
I'm going to guess around 1,000 or 1,000 to 1,200 maybe.
Oh, wow.
That sound right? Yeah. Yeah, it's a lot of letters. I mean, ideally, we thought about, the first reaction was to use Springbrook and just send emails out to everybody. But then we realized you don't normally have emails for businesses and such. So
Right,
the best way to do it is just to do a letter.
sure.
It's a two-page letter. As I said, the body of it is essentially the notices and penalties, but there's an introductory paragraph and a closing paragraph. But
Okay.
Jim asked about sending the executive order, but I mean, I want to mail,
No.
a big thing to every customer.
No,
That's going to
yeah.
be expensive. So it's going to
Right.
be expensive as it is.
Right. Anybody in the audience or the listening audience have anything else?
Looks like there's a big goose egg on the listening audience.
I think you got it under control, so just proceed, I guess. Let me see, we now are up to item 4, discussion on Senate Bill 606 and Assembly Bill 1668.
Right, and you asked about that. And
Yes,
there
sir.
really isn't there really isn't anything new on that. The bill that we're tracking and Aqua's tracking is Senate Bill 1157, which Senator Hertzberg sponsored. That's the one that, to use a term, move the goalposts in the middle of the game. The original legislation, 606 and AB 1668, set a target of, by 2030, of 50 residential gallons per capita per day indoors. Senator Hertzberg submitted legislation in the SB 1157 to lower that target to 42 residential gallons per capita per day. Aqua has been opposed to that unless amended. Part of their justification for opposing it is that they don't believe that enough diligence or research was done to justify. Hertzberg claims that over half of the agencies in California are already at 42 residential gallons per capita per day, and Aqua doesn't quite believe that that's the case. And they're concerned about the cost, particularly to disadvantaged communities, to try and get down to that sort of level. So what they're requesting is to do more studies on this. And again, we've submitted, we're part of that coalition that's opposed to 1157. So as part of that coalition, there have been at least 2 letters submitted in basically saying Aqua's opposed unless amended. The bill is moving along. On June 14th, it's scheduled to go to the Assembly Water, Parks, and Wildlife Committee for consideration. So we'll know more after June 14th of whether or not that moves forward or not. But that's essentially the hot topic right now is at 1157. I think everything else is kind of in the background until there's resolution on that. And I have no update. I heard nothing from Aqua or anybody about the outdoor component of that equation. Nothing about any variances. I've reached out to Aqua. I've tried to find something on the internet, on the Aqua website, on the state board website, and I haven't found any discussions about variances. I do know that they have talked in the past about seven separate variances, of which evaporative cooling is one, but I don't know the status of where those are at. So things seem to be on hold at this time. Although it's my understanding that the outdoor component was supposed to be determined by the end of July of this year.
Well, it seems to me that we're putting an awful lot of emphasis on the indoor. Well, we don't have the vaguest idea what's going on with the outdoor. I mean, it just doesn't seem reasonable that why they're spending
I think part of it is because,
so
again,
much time and energy and effort on the indoor and not this equation you mentioned. It's so abstract. I'm not sure what does it really mean.
I think the emphasis is on the indoor now because the goalposts are being moved in the middle of the game. If this 1157 hadn't been brought to as a Senate bill, I don't think we'd be where we're at right now. This is kind of put brakes on everything. We don't, the target was 50, and then looking to lower it to 42. And I think there's so much concern about making that significant of a change that's what the focus is on right now, is trying to get resolution on that indoor component.
What happened to the 55?
Well, it's 55. It's a 3-stage change. It was 55 initially. I believe it went to 52 and a half. and then down to 50 by 2030. By 2025, I think it was 52 and a half, and then by 2030, 50. So it's an incremental step down.
Oh, okay, but it's still starting at 55.
Starts at 55, yes.
Then goes to 52,
Goes to
and then 50, and now they're,
Now they're looking at, instead, starting at 55, then going to 47, I believe it is, and then 42.
oh, okay.
And I seriously doubt that half the water districts are at 42. I mean,
Sounds,
I get the LA Times and online, I read it, and especially in Southern California, I don't think there's anybody doing 42.
well, they may be including all of California, not just, but why would Northern California be that low?
Yeah, that's
That
what I
doesn't
said.
make a lot of sense.
Yeah.
Mel, have you got anything you'd like to offer?
No, it sounds like it's a wait and see kind of thing. But I appreciate the reminder, Don, and I guess we'll just hang loose until we hear more. It's hard to plan for the future with that many changes, though.
Well, but, in my mind, the outdoors is going to be the big thing.
Sure.
I mean, because, oh, well,
I don't know if you read the LA Times, but the other day there was an article with regard to these restrictions that are coming out. And Los Virgenes Water District is on the front page. Their conservation department developed, as we talked about before, a flow restrictor, but they made their own with, I think it was a 1/16 of an inch diameter hole in it. And their residential gallons per capita per day is something like 206.
oh,
And so, yeah, they have a lot of, excuse me, a lot of lush landscapes. So according to the article, they reached out to, at this point in time, they've reached out to 20 of their top users and either got a commitment from them in writing that they were going to take steps to bring their water consumption down or face installation of a flow restrictor. And according to the article, they did install 4 flow restrictors. And the restrictors were something like 30 gallons per minute. I can't remember what it was, but it was enough for indoor. They said it would be enough to flush a toilet, enough to maybe take a good shower, but there was nowhere near enough to do landscaping.
oh, yeah.
So and that article said 70% of the water used by their customers goes to your point, outdoor landscaping.
Yeah, yeah. And that's going to be a deciding factor.
Right.
I mean, okay. Well, any other comments from anybody at this point in time? Seeing none. Item number 5 is the draft agenda for the regular board meeting for June 13th.
It's actually a special board meeting.
Special board meeting.
It says
I'm sorry,
regular,
you're
but it's
right.
a special
You're
board
right.
meeting.
I blew that. Mel, you can have your job back next week, okay, or next month.
Okay.
So, Mel, Don, did you want to go over anything or just?
I can just go over it real quickly if you'd like. I mean, as you know, we're starting at 3:30 with closed session. I'm anticipating that we finish by sometime between 5 and 5:30. We'll arrange to have pizza brought in so that you have something to eat before open session because there are a few items on open session that are likely to lead to some long discussion. So open session will convene at 6 o'clock. First thing on there is a presentation of the 2020 general plan to be adopted by resolution. Jim's prepared that resolution and sent it today. I think we got that this afternoon. I haven't opened it yet, but Chuck Krieger will be in attendance here at the meeting on Monday. So he'll give an overview of the general plan has been presented to the board prior. There were comments received from the board and from staff. There were some minor changes made to it. So Chuck will go over that, kind of summarize how we got to where we are today. Then we're looking for board to adopt by resolution the general plan for a, what do you call it, non-determined, was it CEQA? Negative declaration, yeah.
Negative deck, yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. Before you go on, I have been working on GA things all week. I haven't opened up the document, but I did note that it's 180 pages. I have no idea if I'm going to be able to get to read the whole thing before Monday night.
Well, again, it was presented prior, and there aren't that many changes that are significant. So, and just so you know, it is on our website. There's a link. When you go to our website, there'll be a pop-up that will say that the general plan is available for review, and people can click on it and go to it if they want to see it. And of course, it was sent to the. I'm sorry?
I think the important part about going through that, if we have a chance to highlight some of the issues, and maybe Chuck will be able to do this, but when we're at the next topic, we're going to be talking about the rate analysis, which has all those capital improvements included in it that result in some substantial cost increases as we see in the future. So when we go through the plan, are we at least going to try to highlight the capital improvement projects that are outlined in it as?
Well, that's the purpose of going through the general plan before we go through the financial analysis. We wanted to make sure that there's an understanding of what projects are being considered going forward that factor into the financial analysis.
Okay, good.
Yeah, and Mel, I was also concerned about the same thing. I haven't looked at, well, since I haven't looked at the plan, we have had a couple of view graph presentations, haven't seen a actual written version, but, and I don't remember what was in the capital plan for those view graph presentations I saw, so maybe it'll jog a bell when I go through it. But I also am concerned that we're maybe driving the financial issues way too much, because my first gut feel on the 55% increase following a 3% increase isn't gonna hack it. So we'll see, I guess, on Monday night. But right now, my feeling is if I get a lot of time to start reading it, I might be prepared to vote on it. Earlier, I think you probably remember sending a email saying, I think maybe we should just have it for discussion. So I guess we'll see what happens when all the board gets together and starts really looking at it.
Just to be clear, just for the record, when you said from 3% to 55, that's not a 1 year 55%.
No, it was.
I just want to be clear because somebody listening to that will say.
I'm sorry. Yeah. Well, it's stuck in my mind, 55. I go, oh my God, but I'm assuming we'll pass the current revised budget for this coming fiscal year, which has a 3% increase. And then over the next 4.5 years, a 55%, which adds up to be a total of probably a little more than 58.
I think it's 46. It wasn't it 10, 10. This isn't official, just in the presentation. I believe it was 10, 10, 10, 8, 8, correct? So that's 46.
You have to multiply them you got to multiply, starting with 1.03 times 1.10 times 1 point.
Okay.
And it does end up being just a tad, that is the 4.5 years does add up to be a tad more than 55%. And then you multiply by 1.03 and it's going to be at least 58. And my feeling is that's a non-starter, but we'll see what the board says.
Okay.
It's going to be interesting.
And those numbers apply to just the cost of the water. Is that correct, Don?
Those percentages?
Yeah.
That's
Also
It's not like my water
increase
bill's
is my
going to go up
understanding.
55%.
So that would apply to the commodity fee as well as the ready to serve charge. the account charge, all of those would, that 10% for the first year would apply to all those.
Yeah, well,
Okay.
that's what I assumed. It would not apply to the GA fee,
No,
but that's
Right.
the only one that it wouldn't apply to.
the construction meters, everything, 10% across the board.
Okay.
Yeah. Yeah. And, yeah, it's going to be interesting to see. Obviously, Mark was looking at the general plan when he did his analysis.
General plan and the capital
And
improvement
at least
plan,
that would account for his capital improvement program part of his, but I didn't, well, we'll get into it
Yeah,
on Monday.
yeah, we're getting into the weeds and some, we're just going
Okay.
through the agenda. so.
Okay, I'm sorry.
okay.
I didn't want to go back to it after, so I apologize for interrupting, but it needed to be done.
Okay. We got into the financial rate analysis, of course, that'll be presented. Consent calendar. Finance committee, we have, yesterday, the finance committee recommended approval of the banking RFP to Alta One. So we'll be bringing that to the board. And as you mentioned earlier, the general fund and capital projects budget for fiscal year 2022, 2023 will be presented. That was reviewed by the committee yesterday and recommended approval.
What's the recommendation that the committee came up with
For which one?
for number B2?
For
It says
B2?
committee recommends the following : blank.
They recommended bringing it to the board for approval.
Oh, they didn't recommend approval, bringing it,
They had no questions there was no question, well, they had a couple questions, but I think they formally.
well, I mean, they can recommend approval, or they could recommend disapproval, or they could recommend that it just go to the board without making a recommendation plus, or,
What did you, it was approved, wasn't it?
I remember them recommending
It was
approval.
approved.
Yeah.
Yeah. Chuck and I both
Well, yeah, you were on the committee.
agreed to move forward with
well, Mel, speak up.
it. I just did.
Just,
So, yeah, they recommended approval.
okay. I assumed that was what it was, but I
No, I
gotta
see
beat
the
it out of
basis-
some
I
people.
see the basis of your question, Stan. It's kind of it's an incomplete sentence at the very end of B2.
I'm sorry, Mel, I got distracted and my hearing's not real good.
Yeah.
No, I was just commenting that I see your point that B2 at the end, it says committee recommends the following. We have to put in what.
Right.
what
and
we're-
that-
Oh, I assume that, yeah, it will be added before.
It'll be added.
So we-
Yeah.
We just hadn't forwarded that information on to Lauren yet, so that's why it's
Yeah,
not in here.
okay, okay,
Ty just sent me the minutes to review, and I just reviewed them and sent them back, so
yeah,
we'll get that corrected.
okay. We're on a roll.
Item C, Executive Order N722. Of course, we just discussed that. We'll have the same discussion at the board meeting, maybe a little more detail. D, legal fees from McMurtry, Hartsock, and Worth. Jim has submitted, just for information, the last rate increase from McMurtry, Hartsock, Worth, and St. Lawrence was 3 years ago. They typically do every 3 years. So they're submitting there'll be a letter in the board packet with the new rates. And it's essentially a 10% increase. But again, that's over 3 years, average of about 3% a year. And I will note, because I talked to Jim yesterday, initially they were proposing a 12% increase, but I think we shamed them down to 10%. So
Well, it was Krieger and Stewart that we
we just did, and it
did
was
just not that
3%.
long ago.
And it was
I
3%.
was going, how many how many raises do they want? But it wasn't, it was Krieger and Stewart.
Aaron Stewart, and they do it every year, and it's been 3% the last few years. This again covers 3 years, and it's 10%. But I will note one thing, Jim's firm does not charge mileage or copying or clerical assistance, telephone, anything like that. So with gas prices the way they are, and Jim coming over here as often as he does, he's not billing us for travel. So that can be significant with gas at approaching
yeah.
$7 a gallon, so. Anyway, Jim will be here and he'll provide the justification for the rate increase. And then moving on, E is the Groundwater Authority report, which the meeting today, I'm sure you'll give a concise, comprehensive summary.
Yes, sir.
F is update Jim will provide on comprehensive adjudication. Then we have our staff manager reports. I don't think there's anything on there other than our mid-year workshop is in July. And we'll probably be looking at one of the last 2 weeks. I don't know what people's schedules are. We'll find out Monday night, but I know for a fact Jason was going to be gone one of those 2 weeks. But I don't know, board members will have to check and see, but sometime toward the end of
I'm
July.
going to be gone 5 days and
At the end of July?
at the end of, well, actually toward the middle,
Okay.
the start of the middle, I think like the 18th to the 23rd.
Okay, we'll have people check their calendars Monday night and we'll set a
Fine.
date. If necessary, we can move up to August. I'm sure that's not a problem. Other than that, everything else is updates that we have normally. So that's the agenda.
I have no further comments on the agenda.
And he volunteered that. I didn't even have to ask. That was good, Mel. Any other board members like to comment on the
You're the only one.
agenda? No, actually, the only one I was really concerned about was the general plan and then how it interfaces with that financial rate analysis. But we'll be going into that, I'm sure, in detail, so.
And again, Chuck Krieger will be here and he's going to be prepared to answer questions. So.
Okay. I guess that leads us to item 6, which is the future agenda items. Anybody in our listening audience or in our local audience, staff members, any ideas, thoughts? Okay, seeing none, we go on to item 7, and that's adjournment. So we're adjourned at 3:33? 3:35, you think's better? Okay, we'll adjourn at 3:35. You're the note taker anyways, doesn't matter.